Sara, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to speak with us. How did this new report come about?
Thanks so much for having me, Daryl. The Raising Canada report is published annually by Children First Canada in partnership with the University of Calgary, University of Toronto, and McGill University. We really want to take a look at the state of the nation's children, the top 10 threats to kids in Canada, and look at the challenges that kids face from coast to coast to coast. We look at what's happening in the lives of all 8 million kids in Canada, but we also do a deep dive around what's happening in the lives of particular populations of children. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you about the particular impacts of the top 10 threats on Indigenous children and the real challenges they face, but also the opportunities to make life better for them and for their peers.
So just on that topic, Sara, what were the findings with regard to Indigenous children specifically?
What's really concerning in this new data is that Indigenous children are much more likely than their non-Indigenous peers to be injured, become ill, or die from preventable causes. Preventable and unintentional injuries are the leading cause of death for all children, things like choking, falls, and drowning, but also related to accidents related to recreational drugs. And these are systemic issues. This is not an issue of a parent or a child making poor decisions. These are the impacts of colonialism, the legacy of residential schools that are making these children much greater risk. The Indigenous children represent only 3% of the pediatric population, but they're 30% of child fatalities related to preventable injuries. It's really concerning. I think many parents would be concerned to hear that, because we all want to ensure that our kids have a safe and healthy start at life. And these are things that are entirely preventable, and we need better laws in place, better supports for parents to ensure our kids not only survive but thrive.
Concerning indeed, Sara, and just sort of in turn with that, what's needed to curb the threats to Indigenous kids within Canada?
Well, this really is a matter of political priority. We know that the federal government has pledged to forge better relationships with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, to honor the commitments under the UN Declaration on Indigenous Peoples and the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. But we're not seeing this treated with the level of urgency that's really required. Children's lives are on the line. There's a great sense of urgency that Indigenous children are much more likely to grow up in poverty, to experience abuse, and other forms of adversity that not only impact them in their early years, but throughout their lifetime. We need our government to step up and ensure that Indigenous children receive equitable resources for their education, for healthcare, and for all the supports that families need to provide the very basics of life, let alone to allow our children to prosper.
Well, Sara, given everything you've just said and with this report, what should happen next here?
We're calling on the federal and provincial governments to make a plan to put children first, to lead Forum with Children, having a national strategy for children, appointing a federal commissioner, and investing big, bold resources to ensure that kids survive and thrive. But we also want to see children being raised with their rights. Canada has an obligation to teach children that they have rights and to engage them as responsible citizens. We know that kids who know their rights are less likely to be bullied or to bully others. They're more likely to seek help if they experience abuse or neglect. But they're also more empowered to be involved in decision-making within their families, their communities, and to speak up even at the highest levels of government. These are simple steps that our government can and should be taking, and we urge them to act with a sense of urgency.
Well, there's certainly plenty to think about there, Sara. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much again for coming on our show and giving us a little insight into this report.
Thank you.